Now, how this list is going to work. First of all, there's a mistake here. Let me fix this. There we go. Now, firstly, let's go over the actual tiers. Double S. These are going to be Nikke that are going to be good and highly coveted in every single solo raid, regardless of its element. S tier will be Nikke that are good in every solo raid basically, but maybe on a more niche or specific type of team, or units at a top tier for a specific element solo raid. A will be units that might be good for a variety of solo different raids, different elements, or good units in their own element. B are going to be units that you might occasionally bring along for some certain type of tech. C are going to be your last moment replacements, units that might have uses like in fringe cases, but typically most players should not really bother building them. And then NA, or not applicable, these are going to be units that I would not bring or build specifically for solo raid. This does not mean these units are not good. Some of them will be very good in other places, like in story or in PvP, but remember, this is a solo raid tier list, so this will reflect that. Also, obviously, there are a lot of Nikke, and I personally am one person and have not played and tested out every single one, so some of this will just be word of mouth and me looking at numbers and other things too, so do keep that in mind. I'm not the only tier list here. Make sure you're cross-referencing other people's and then make your own decisions based on the units that you have. Anyways, let's get started with the list. Starting up first, we have regular Emma, and she's going into not applicable because, well, she's not really that good. Anyway, we have Privity now, and all units that have a favorite item slash treasure will be assumed to have a maxed out favorite item. So, favorite item or treasure Privity will get double S. As long as the boss is not immune to her damage taken debuff, then she is a menace. She is, I believe, the best off burst 3 if you want to increase your damage in the game. On top of that, if you have good damaging rolls on her, like attack and elemental damage also, she can do good damage against water weak bosses. Now, this is also not a requirement. You don't have to have her like this overall. In fact, they're probably better candidates for you to use your limited rocks on, but it is a thing she can do. So easily double S. Next up, Signal, Polly, Miranda. So Treasured Miranda will be going into the S tier, and I think she's a perfect example of what this tier represents. She is a unit that is going to be good in every solo raid, regardless of element, but in a very specific type of team. So what she does is, with her treasure, she'll increase the crit rate of the highest attack Nikke by like 80 something ish percent, basically boosted to 100%, so they guarantee crit. And you want to use this with certain Nikke, like Ada with her big power burst shot, or Snow White with her sniper, or someone heavy arms with their sniper. Also, units like Mahara Bond and Chain and Ein have interesting mechanics with this, where if you cover during the burst, all of their stacks like stack up better. I don't know exactly why it works this way, but it does. So yes, Miranda is going to be an S tier character. Kind of annoying to use like in her teams, but well worth it if you can get it down. We have normal Braid, normal Celine, Diesel Treasure, normal Vesti, normal Runwa, normal Guillotine, normal Maiden, normal D Helm. Okay, so Treasured Helm is another double S unit. She is a very flexible burst 3. She has a heal which can trigger Crown, and she has a really powerful burst heal on the S3, which is based on attack damage. So you do actually have to do damage with it to get the heal. But in fights where you need some form of healing or maybe even emergency healing, she's really, really good. She doesn't offer as much damage as Privity, but she does offer really good burst renovation. So if a team seems to be struggling and gaining burst, maybe she's an option for you right there. In addition to that, she also can act as a DPS like Privity as long as you have some good elemental and attacking rolls on her also. The only thing you want to make sure is that you do not have ammo rolls on them, Privity or Helm, because they have a less bullet mechanic, and more ammo means, well, using your last bullet less often. Alright, Summer Neon. So I was not playing when Summer Neon came out. However, I do know she is perhaps the most disappointing Nikke to have ever come out in the entire game. So she's going into NA, which is unfortunate because I don't have her because she's one of the few Nikkes I skipped last year. So if she reruns again, I am gonna have to try to get her. Mast. Mast is actually my favorite Nikke in the entire game, and it pains me. But right now, she's not really that good, and really never was that good. Technically, she could have an okay niche somewhere, so maybe some people can use her, but I don't think it's enough. She also has a niche team in PvP, but again, this is solo raid, so Helm Aquamarine. Helm Aquamarine is an interesting character because she is more good because she's an iron unit versus anything else. She is an interesting burst too that you don't have to burst with a CDR. So she can be kind of like a little protected in that way. But you'll never see her outside of Iron Week solo raids anyway. So for this, I'm gonna put her into the B tier at the moment. She's like in between B and A. So Marciana, Query, Maid, Privity. Maid Privity is a unit that saw some experimentation last solo raid, which was Electric Week in the shotgun team, but people I think quickly found out that the shotgun team was not that good last solo raid, and one of the reasons it wasn't good is because Maid Privity unfortunately is not the greatest unit in the world. Usable, but you know that's kind of a cope, so put him to C. The Killer Wife. The Killer Wife is an interesting unit because for a long time, any unit with CDR, as long as it was a good CDR, was highly coveted. Now that we've gotten so many more CDR units, the need for them has become a little bit lessened, and units like the Killer Wife have definitely fallen off. So right now, she's going into A. She's not a unit that's going to be used in every single solo raid, and occasionally a team will pop up where, okay, yeah, you'll plug her in, but I would say on the totem pole of usable CDR units, she is definitely the worst one. Zwei. Zwei is an interesting character because results right now would have me put her into C. As last solo raid, which was Electric Week, I don't think she was really used that much at all. However, a unit, Mint, just came out who pairs pretty well with her. She's seeing use in current Union raid at least. Now, the main problem here is that her main competition is Miranda, who is also really good with Mint. So we'll have to see how they compare, and they're both burst ones that do not have CDR. So their team building restrictions are pretty high. Right now, I'm going to put it into B, but she is possible she'll move up depending on what the future brings. The thing is that Miranda has been proven to be a good unit in every solo raid, and Zwei probably is not going to be used in every single solo raid. Maybe like every other one, and in that case, she moved to A, but this is more projection than anything. Next up, we have Phantom. Phantom is an kind of I would say, a kit-wise, pretty troublesome because she requires to have multiple targets up to really take advantage of her kit, and because of this, she is very manual dependent, and not only manual dependent, but very cheese dependent, where there are infamous videos where people are pausing, reposition their cursor to hit a different target to keep other targets alive to maximize Phantom's damage. Very, very, very cheesy, very annoying, something I don't think you should be able to do in the game. But yeah, that's basically how you play Phantom, and because she's also, that's the only way she's ever going to do any semblance of good damage. And remember, if the boss does not have like multiple targets on it, then Phantom is just like a dead unit. So very niche, but still niche use cases, so safe. Maiden Ice Rose, or X Maiden, will go into S tier, just a staple of the electric boss killing crew. Can be used as an off burst or an on burst depending on your needs and the type of boss you are fighting. Next, we have X Guillotine, or Winter Slayer, and she's gonna go into C right now, but she's kind of bordering on like falling out of C. Water has gotten a bunch of Nikke that are relatively good recently with like Privity and stuff like that. So maybe she's fallen off. Even when she came out, she was kind of mid to begin with. So this is a pretty generous rating for her, I would say. Rappy Red Hood, another double S unit. Also, these are not in any order, by the way. I'm just kind of dragging them up here. Obviously, double S unit, one of the best neutral damage dealers in the game. Not the best neutral damage dealer, but a very strong neutral damage dealer. Also strong against both the electric and wind code, which is really, really nice too. Can act as a burst 3 or as a burst 1, and that flexibility is important because last solo raid, she was primarily actually used as a burst 1. So, just a spectacular unit. Alright, next up, I'm going to look at a couple of units together, the main mast and main anchor. We'll start with mast, and main mast offers a wider range of buffs like attacking buffs, reload speed, all that good stuff. She's often paired with either Crown, who we'll get to, or Anchor herself. Main mast is a really, really good damage increase across the board for a lot of teams. And right now, because she is highly coveted in every solo raid, a little more restrictive than units like Helm and Privity, because she does require a partner because she is a 40-second burst too. But that being said, she is going to be used in every solo raid and be coveted by a lot of teams, so she's going into double S. Anchor is more for survivability. She gets a shield and other things. She also makes it so that Mass does not suffer her hangover down effect. Now, the thing is that Mass is used a lot of times without Anchor, but Anchor will never be used without Mass. So, because of that, she's going into A, because yes, she is used quite a bit, but if you don't use her, but if you use Mass again with Crown, then you don't use Anger at all, so that's why there is that tier discrepancy. However, I will say that in the grand scheme of things, she's probably higher up the pole here on the A tier compared to other units. Next we have Arcana, Normal Arcana, and Isabel, another pair of units. This one's pretty interesting because for a long time, Isabel was one of the worst Nikke in the entire, one of the worst programs in the entire game. The thing is that she decreases your burst time in half, which means that you just do less damage. When you full burst, that is the window where you're gonna do primarily the most damage you can. What Arcana does is she makes it so that you can burst more often, which is really, really nice. Now, in Union Raid, basically, I believe something like Cinderella plus Neo Neon is just more damage overall. But because in solo raid you have to spread some of your teams out a little bit, I think that we can safely put these two units into single less. Because again, they have to be used together. If you don't have one of them, then the other one is completely useless. And the why S tier? Because they were part of the highest damaging team last solo raid, which is Isabel, Arcana, Crown, Anise, and Cinderella. Cinderella does do the heavy lifting, but don't mistake that for that they're not doing anything. Again, they're increasing your burst rotation, and Isabel herself does some decent damage. Kay, Sora, with the tactical upgrade units right here. Delta. So Delta we'll put into C. More of like a min-max unit, I would say. Like, I know some top players kind of used her a little bit to do things. She is iron, So Iron is the weakest element by far, so it will be nice to her there. Soline Frost Ticket. Soline Frost Ticket is probably the best CDR Burst 1 for shotgun right now. She's, I would say, in between S and A. Not required, but definitely the best option. So, it's pretty close right here, I would say. Uh, Diesel, Winter Sweets. So, X Diesel, who's a limited unit, is going to S, just a really, really strong bosser for anything that is fire weak. Same thing for Brid, another limited winter unit, just really, really strong against anything that is wind coated. In fact, she's only going to be used against that because her kit only works against wind coated enemies. If we have Label, Label, like maybe C, but she's the PvP unit, so we'll put it over here. EH, School Arcana is going to go into right by Soline. So School Arcana is the one of the best burst twos, usually the best burst two for shotgun overall. A pretty substantial improvement over the replacements like Grave or Bunny Aid that they've used in the past. So just a good unit to have overall for the shotgun team. Remember though, some shotgun teams will not use her though, depending on the element. Avistar, not really worth using, unfortunately. Maxwell's weird because um she's like a supporting unit that can do some damage. Her investment is very, very high. However, I'm gonna put her into B for right now. She is Iron, which is the weakest element, so it would not surprise me if she sees uses in next solo raid. Uni Leader. So Leader is going to go right into the A tier at the moment, which is a pretty substantial fall from grace for her. However, I do think that now, you think about it. You have Anise, you have Siren, you have Trisha Moran. Then you have one team that is going to be Shotgun. So if you're using Soline in that team, or maybe another CDR, or another thing that like kind of cheats CDR, like Bunny Soda, which we'll get to later, then you don't need that. And then you have one other team, which is going to probably be your Miranda or maybe your Zway team, right? And with that, you debate what other burst 3, what other CDR burst 1 can I bring to that team. Sometimes it's going to be actually Rapid Red Hood as the burst 1. Other times, depending on the composition, it might be like Rouge, it might be Dekill the Wife, or, then you have Leader, right? So you actually have a lot of options for that final team. That Leader, a lot of times, is not going to fill. She's still a really good unit and an important unit for like power and for new plays, stuff like that, but she's not a must-have like she was in the past. Julia Treasure. C. Like, sometimes I see these insane Julias just doing work, and then I see the investment in them, and I'm like, I don't think that's worth it. Ascenti, PvP, Drake. Drake is going to be core for shotgun. So we'll put her right up here because shotgun is a team that is going to be used in just about every solo raid. I know I said that last solo raid wasn't that good, but that tends to be the exception, not the rule. Everybody's most hated Nikke. Pepper, unfortunately, is PvP. Adme, Jackal, PvP. Treasured Laplace. Treasured Laplace will go into B. She is a DPS that sometimes can do a little bit of work because her burst does pierce and it does pretty good damage against things like parts and stuff like that. Yeah, some true damage too, which is nice against high defenses. But she's just kind of lacking behind other powerful units right now. So here we go. Guilty, Sin, Query, and who Who's this character? I've never seen this Nikke before in my life. Alright, I'll do these two together, Naga and Tia. So this is interesting because a lot of times you'll see people you want to use these together, and in solo raid, it's easy to do this because bosses typically outside of their big like damaging mechanics don't actually do a lot of damage. So it's a lot easy for Tia to survive, where in campaign or tower, especially when you're at deficit, Tia just gets shredded and she just dies, unfortunately. But the thing is though, is that unless the boss has a core which you can abuse, Tia doesn't really do anything. And even then, sometimes it's just better to bring an off burst that just supports you a little bit more. You do more damage, maybe you reload faster or something like that. Naga, on the other hand, has uses as the burst 2, as for a while, having enough burst 2s to go around has been a bit of an issue. She also has a minor heal, which can help you in some fights that where you require that. Um, but I would not rush to build either of these characters for solo raid right now. Still good in Missileless Tower at the very least, though. Naga more so than Tia, again for reasons I said before. So I would put Naga right now into B and Tia into C. Tuve. Tuve is going to go into the S tier next to Drake because she's also core to the shotgun team. We have Eleg, who, one of my other favorite characters. We'll put her into over here, though. Elo, Feet, Ein. Ein is going to go into A right now. She has some true damage potential, which is more useful in campaign and deficit than solo raid because your power doesn't matter in solo raid. But she does get buffed by like true damage buffers like Takana and stuff like that. She'll probably never do the most damage unless she has the most attack, where she is getting buffed by something like Miranda. But for electric at least, because electric's power is a bit lower, at least was before Neon and Ennis came out, she's gonna fit nicely into the A tier. Quincy, Escape Queen, is also another A tier unit. Not going to do the most damage, but because just of the unit spread in water, that's where she goes. Flora, Mana. Mana is a unit that was used a little bit for Wind Week and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, we'll put her into C. Alright, these next units here I want to do together also. So one of them I had to find. And here she is. So both Scarlet and Trina. So I'll put these together because the only way either of them are viable in solo raid is if they're used together, because Trina is Scarlet's best partner. A long time ago, Scarlet was a incredible unit for Electric. I think this is more to do with the fact that Electric was just really, really bad for a long time. However, they were part of the least. Okay, so this is weird because like they were used like a bit, but they have been consistently the worst performing Electric team like in solo raids, and they weren't really used that much last solo raid because we just got more electric units that are just better. So I'm gonna put them in the C. Like, I don't think they're units that you really want to use, but if you have them, if you have to, you can. Definitely more PvP units and have been for like a long time now. Mihara Bonding Chain is going to go into the S tier, and actually pretty close to double S overall, like kind of just teetering on the edge. And this is because she's a very, very good, not only on damage for things when paired with, again, with Miranda, but also as an off burst can be a good damage dealer there too. Not quite good enough in neutral, where she can be used in every solo raid, but as a filler, for some things, just in case you just need to toss in, one of the best options that you have. Mori, Eleg, Boom, and Shock. So another limited water unit, and she is going to go into the. She's like borderline like SA. Um, I'm gonna put her into A right now, but because she's not a required unit by any means. Now as water gets better, Eleg's stock will actually rise up because she is primarily a buffer, and buffers tend, as long as the buffs are good, tend to get better over time as long as the kits remain relevant. And I do think Eleg's will. So, she's like kind of, borderline right here, but here we go, right there. Uh, Snow Crane. I forgot her name for a second there. Neo Neon. Neo Neon is gonna go into the S tier. So yeah, not double S. And again, this is because Neo Neon is really only gonna be used, I think, against electric weak bosses. Maybe neutral occasionally, but not quite like not a coveted unit for every single team, but still really, really good. Roughly in most cases, like 95% of Cinderella's power, which is nothing to scoff at. Sugar. Treasured Exia. So Exia is another unit I really, really like as a character. I actually like all the gamer girls, so Exia, Trony, Eleg. I think they're cool. Anyways, Exia is a unit I really tried to make work. Last solo raid, I tried a lot of things to boost my score to get something respectable with her, and I just couldn't. At best, she's C, and even then, that's kind of coping right there. Alice. So Alice is a unit that, in best case situations, can be an absolute monster. The problem is that Shiftup doesn't like giving her these situations. They don't like giving bosses cores, especially 5 week bosses for some reason. She was actually used last 5 week solo raid, but she was part of the worst performing team by a very, very high margin. Now, maybe we'll get a 5 week boss that has cores and parts eventually. Here's hoping. But right now, she's going into B. Another combo here: Blanc and Nor. So for a while, you had to use these characters together to activate their special effects. But now with Rouge, who came out, actually like a little bit after I started playing the game, you can use just Rouge and Blanc instead. And since Rouge is a character you're going to be using a lot, Nor a lot of times just kind of left off. The thing is though is that you don't have to use Blanc with Rouge either. There are just other Nikke burst 2s that even if we don't trigger Rouge's specific 777 buff, you just do a little more damage overall without them. That's not to say that Blanc doesn't have uses. So right now, I would put Blanc in B, and I would put Nor into C, but she's kind of like teetering on the edge right there. Prima, Mary, Milk, Yolha, Lumilla, Rupee, Yan, Dollar, Novel, Proquan, Sakura, Viper. Treasure Viper, a unit that I don't really think is so. The problem with Treasure Viper is that her investment needing a treasure is really, really, really high in comparison. So we'll put it into C too. All right, Coco, Soda, Biscuit, Ray, Aria, Noise. Okay, Noise, Noise. Give me PvP. Volume. So Volume is a unit that has CDR in the burst 1, but unlike other CDR burst 1s, she was, at least since I started playing, not really heavily used. Overall, she was like already falling off when I started, like about a year and 9-ish months ago. So she'll go into C. Again, she has CDR, but probably the worst CDR, at least, until I get to another unit in the game. Uh, Winter Shopper, right there. Rosanna, good for PvP. Mary Bay Goddess, Nero, PvP. So we have a niece, something, I don't know, Summer Niece. I forget her full name. Summer Niece is a really weird unit because you would think after all this time she would have fallen off. But no, like I said with Eleg, if a unit buffs and is good and the buffs scale well, the unit is going to be good for a long time. Her damage numbers are not that bad, and she helps the rest of her team out too. So because of this, I think she goes nicely into the S tier. Um, Lumilla, Winter Lumilla. Um, I'm gonna put her into B. I think she's an interesting unit where she acts as like a buffer and can do some damage sometimes, but definitely not a priority build for most teams. Snow Mika. Leona is a unit that was previously used in Shotgun. However, Shotgun got a lot of upgrades over time, and she's kind of a last resort for those Shotgun teams. Moran. So Treasure Moran went to okay. Moran went from being like a nothing unit again, like almost like pretty barely usable in PvP. Not barely usable, like she was a good PvP unit for a while. But the treasure, oh my goodness, made her a menace not only in PvP, but in PvE too. She's gonna go into double S because she is one of the best CDR burst ones in the entire game and will be used in every single solo raid for the time being until we get, more like burst ones that have CDR that can replace her. Right now, in the pecking order, I would say it is going to be Anise, Siren, and then Moran. Sometimes Moran is actually better than Siren in certain cases, but yeah, like when you are like tied or like really close to the second best burst one CDR in the game, you are going to get a high rating. All right, Aid, we have Bay, more PvP. Bunny Soda. Bunny Soda is going to go into the B tier. She is a really good unit for Shotgun, but only in Iron Week. Next, we're going to have Bunny Alice, and she'll go into C. I'll be nice to her. We have Clay, double ST lobby screen, but unfortunately not good for our purposes here. Rosanna, Summer Rosanna, most well known for age restricting your YouTube videos and stuff like that. We're going to put her into the B tier right now. She's fallen off a lot. I don't know, like she just doesn't quite do enough at the moment. So that's really all there is to it. She's gonna be maybe like the last burst 2 that you bring in if you have a limited roster. Summer Sakura will put into over here. She's a CDR, but she has a 40-second burst, so she's kind of like an unusable CDR. Rouge. Rouge is going to go into the A tier. She's another unit with CDR, kind of like group these three here together. Like in this team right here, I do think that Rouge is going to be the one that sees the most use cases because her unique like HP buffing with things like Cinderella or her other mechanics too. She kind of pairs pretty well with the Ada plus Miranda team as their CDR overall. So I think between these three, we'll see the most usage out of them, which is why I kind of moved it up here to the top. Rumani, PvP, Ready, Crust, Bunny Milk. Another unit that needs heavy manual control. And because she's Iron, and Iron really, really sucks, we'll put her into the S tier. Bunny Aid. So Bunny Aid is a strong burst 2 that I think will put her. She's like in between S and A. A lot of these units are like kind of teetering right here, but she has seen pretty consistent use across a lot of solo raids, so we'll put her into the S tier. Velvet is a okay unit for Wind Week specifically, so we'll put her into A. Star and Nice is going to go into double S, obviously. The most busted unit to come out in a very, very, very long time. If you're not using this unit, you should be. And if you didn't pull this unit, hopefully you can get her in your wish list. Mint. Mint is the newest unit that just came out, and I have a video testing her out, and I share my thoughts on her. So long story short, I think she's gonna be a good unit. She in optimal cases, which is gonna be again with either Miranda or maybe with Zwei too. She is the best burst 2 basically that they can have. However, in other situations, she's gonna fall a little bit behind things like Bunny Aid and Grave. Because of this particular niche, I think she's gonna go into S. She's like maybe like slightly better than Bunny Aid, but not like extremely so. Next, we have regular Snow White, who go into the A tier. More because, again, Iron is not a great element. And yes, Snow White does still see usage, again, paired with Miranda. Miranda is really doing a lot of heavy lifting for these units that would otherwise just be dead in the water. Rapunzel, so she's PvP. Aran, no or more PvP. Modernia. Modernia was actually used last 5-week solo raid. Again, worst performing team, but she was used. But I would not tell anybody to build Modernia in 2026. But, she has uses, so C. Nihilister, unfortunately, here. Dorothy. So, everybody's favorite gremlin, Dorothy, is a CDR, but she has, like, the worst CDR in the entire game. Technically, in War of the Week, she could be, like, somewhat usable. We'll put her into C, right? Not quite a just forget about her, but, she's kind of coping right now. Red Hood. Red Hood, we are going to put into into S tier. Still a good unit, right? She does really, really want to have a core or parts to do a lot of her damage. But if yours is built pretty well, she's still gonna do some nice work for you. Snow White is in Days. Scarlet Black Shadow is also going to the S tier, just a staple in Wind Week. Crown. Crown is going to go into the double S tier. I still think Crown is the best unit in the entire game. I wonder if Shift Up thinks Crown was like a mistake, right? Like, is she too strong? Because she has kind of warped like the game, like almost around her as far as PvE goes. Rapunzel Pure Grace, Cinderella is the best electric damage dealer right now in the game for Electric Week, so she goes right there. Grave. Grave is interesting because I think on paper people find that Grave is better than Bunny Aid, but in a lot of cases, Bunny Aid is just used on better teams. So head to head, like again, Grave is the better unit, but in like practice, like Grave is kind of like a filler for like the shotgun team or on the Pierce team. And we know that the Pierce team has not been good for a really long time. And we know that the shotgun team got other options. So does now Grave replace Bunny Aid on on her teams, or does Grave get kind of left out? Like that remains kind of to be seen. I'm gonna put her into A. However, this is again more guesswork than anything, but I do think that Bunny Aid and Mint will see more play than Grave overall right now. Siren, we'll put it right next to Moran. Again, this is not an order or anything, but yeah, one of the best CDR burst ones in the entire game. Will be used every single solo raid for the foreseeable future right there. Summer Dorothy. basically the unit that made the shotgun team viable again. She's gonna go into S, core to like basically core the shotgun, and required for to do well in Water Week, basically. Nayuta will go into the double S tier also. She is an incredible burst 2. Probably the best support burst 2 with a 20-second after crown. Uh, Liberario is gonna go into the S tier. She is like teetering on double S, I would say, because she has uses with buffing charge speed, especially with Neo Neon. So she is used in both Wind Week and also in Electric Week too, as just kind of a buffer that can do some good neutral damage also. Chime, Snow White Heavy Arms is going to go into the double S tier. Unlike Liberalia, Snow White Heavy Arms not only is really, really good in her element, but is one of the best neutral damage dealers in the entire game. So she kind of easily slots into double S, I would say. All right, now we have some collab units right here. I was not around for Chainsaw Man or um, you know, some of these like V0, so I'll put these guys over here. Next up, we're gonna have Near, and they'll go over here too. V0. Okay, so the Ava collab is kind of interesting here, where I'm gonna put Asuka, the first one, into B by Alice because they go on the same team. Ray also, I'll put here the first one. Mari, well, I'll put into B because she did see do a little bit of use also. In fact, I think I could put these all into B. I do think that the Wind Asuka has the most potential to be used next Wind Week solo raid, but it has been a while since any of these units have seen really strong usage overall in bossing content. Then we have the Stellar Blade collab, which is going to be Eve and Raven, which is rerunning right now if you catch this video when it's current. So Eve is going to go into the A tier. Again, a lot to do because she's Iron, and Iron is not a great element right now. But she does buff, or at least help your other units do more damage. And this is a pretty scalable buff, so I do think that she will continue to be relevant for the future. And then we have Raven. Raven just does a lot of damage. Not only is she, after Rapid Red Hood, I would say the best iron damage dealer in the entire game, she's also a very, very strong neutral damage dealer as well. Which means that and a lot of times, you will bring her into other solo raids too. So pretty solidly S tier. We have Ada, who is going to go into this is kind of tricky because the only team you're gonna bring Ada with is the Miranda team, and this is more so in non-electric week, you use her purely for burst generation and her like heal that she has too on her burst. In electric week, if she is the highest attack, you actually use her for her damage because you can charge that huge shot and fire it and hope that you hit the boss before it moves. Yes, very, very fun, dynamic gameplay right there. She's kind of in between A and S because obviously true damage doesn't really help you that much in Soul Raid at all. I'm gonna however, I do think that she is better than every single unit in the A tier, so I will put her into S tier right now. We have Jill, who does have some uses, so we'll put her into C. Okay, Takana and Chisato. So these are gonna be the last two units we do because all these SRs will not see usage. Interesting here. So I think Takana. Well, let's start with Chisato. Chisato, true damage, Iron Weak. If you need like a defense buster, Chisato is really, really, really good. And because she's Iron Weak, I think she can go to A tier. Takana is a buffer. So again, if you have a team with like Miranda, uh Ada, and then Ein, you can do a pretty good buff there. Does require some manual control to maximize her overall, but like very very specific. I do think Takana overall is the better unit, but not at least in solo raid goes, not so much better that I feel confident in moving up to A tier. So she also goes into the A tier, also, albeit more at the top. So let's go to the list one more time. So we have double S, your S tier, your A tier, your B tier, your C tier, and then your tier where you don't really want to bring these units into solo raid. Now, some players, they might find uses for units, maybe in like the NA tier, or in C, or in B also, and use them to really, really high effects. Again, this list is more aimed at players who are trying to get their feet wet in the solo raid, or just want to have a baseline on, what units do I really want to build towards it. I will say that the rewards to effort in a solo raid is kind of bad, I would say, because you have to build a lot of units, and unless you rank pretty high, you don't really get a ton of gems. If anything, you really want to get that frame. So, the first frame, I believe, is what, 30%, and then you have a 10% frame, and then you have a 3% frame. And 10%, well, okay, 30% first of all is reachable really, really quickly. 10% you probably do after like a year of free to play, probably even sooner actually. And 3% in a lot of cases takes players quite a while, especially if they don't spend any money, if they can do it at all in that case. And it is, I would say, getting a little bit harder too to actually frame up in the game in comparison, which is which is to be expected, but also kind of unfortunate, I would say. When I started the game, the frame was actually a 1%, and it changed to 3%. So technically, there it got easier. I don't know, maybe one they'll change it to 5%. We'll see what they do about that. But yeah, if you actually want to get gems like more consistently, PvP is actually the way to go. I don't know, maybe I'll make a PvP video too. Guides for that are just harder to do because you can test out solo raid like anytime you want to for free, at least when solo raid is up. PvP to test out, you have to spend gems, and then you also have to like have opponents that are reasonable to hit, which are two things that either you don't want to do or you just can't do. But yeah. Anyway, if you find this video helpful or just entertaining, want to support me, a like, comment, subscription, greatly appreciated. If you have any examples of units, especially in the lower tiers, that you use to pretty good effects in solo raid, again, leave that in the comments below. I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Till next time.